Donald Trump has a stock market problem. And even if he's not going to admit it, it could be a big problem for Republicans in the near term and the long term. Let's get into it. Okay, so if you've been paying any attention to the news over the last week or really couple weeks, what you know is that the three major stock indexes in the U.S., the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ, are all off by a considerable amount. So I went back and looked. So since Trump's inauguration, so that's January 20th, the Dow Jones is down 3.6%. The S&P 500 is down 6.4%, and the NASDAQ, tech stocks, is down 11%. The stock market, let me say this, isn't the economy, right? Just because the stock market is off or down does not mean the economy is bad. But for lots and lots of people, the stock market is sort of the economy. And I will tell you that one person for whom that's true happens to also be the resident of the White House at the moment, Donald Trump. So the New York Times did a great piece a few months back where they basically said Donald Trump has had two lifelong obsessions, or at least obsessions for most of his adult life. One is television. He watches it constantly, especially cable TV, and sort of, uses it as a gauge of how he's doing. And the other is the stock market, that Trump believes the stock market to be more accurate, more reliable than any poll about how he's doing as president. Stock market up, people think Trump's doing great. Stock market down, maybe not so much. So I guarantee you that Donald Trump is absolutely well aware of what is happening right now, the sell-off that is happening. Even if he doesn't want to admit it to himself, he is watching it. So just one thing on the not wanting to admit it to himself. On February 19th, which was less than a month ago, Donald Trump told a group of business investors, and I quote, "The stock market is going to be great." Okay? We're in a good to be great situation. On Sunday, he told reporters, quote, "You can't really watch the stock market." And Trump, Monday and Tuesday, has not offered any thoughts on Truth Social about the stock market. Even though he's put up dozens of posts over that period of time. So he's clearly trying to ignore it and hoping the problem will go away, even though he is absolutely 100% obsessed with it. So how did we get here? And where are we going? I want to answer both of those questions. Let me first say this. If you like independent, nonpartisan, authentic, transparent analysis, I am your guy about politics. I'm making a video every single day. I am calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. And I think that is more important now than ever, where media and everybody else has become polarized and partisan. I'm trying to carve out the middle space. I'm going to tell you, if it's a good idea if Donald Trump does it, it's still a good idea. If it's a bad idea and Democrats do it, it's still a bad idea. Subscribe. I need you. Okay, so how did we get here and what does the future look like? How we got here is part of kind of a broader conversation about Donald Trump. So Donald Trump, this will not be breaking news to any of you who have followed him. He likes unpredictability. He likes chaos. He thinks that it works for him. And he's not always wrong. I always point out the first couple of weeks of his second presidency, the first couple of weeks of January, where executive orders and we're renaming the Gulf of Mexico and we might take over Greenland and Canada and his cabinet appointees. And everything is happening, right? Everything is happening. You never know where to look. It's the flood the zone strategy. And I think it does at times work because there's so much chaos and uncertainty that people never know what to glom onto, and Trump gets a lot more done than he might if he was kind of going one piece by one piece by one piece. But I do really think that strategy has its limits. And the comparison I always make is to running. So when I was a kid, we would run a timed mile in gym class. And no matter what I told myself, I'd always start out too fast. And I'd always be ahead after the first lap. Second lap, my lead would slacken. Third lap, lead would get less. By the fourth lap, I was barely stumbling around the thing and I'd finish in the middle of the pack or near the end. The lesson here, you can't sprint all the time. It doesn't work unless it's a sprint. And this is not a sprint, it's a 4-year marathon. So I think that what you're seeing here is that the uncertainty, the unpredictability, the chaos that Donald Trump foments because he thinks it works to his advantage is starting to come back to bite him a bit. And the reason why specifically is tariffs. So if you follow the tariff debate, I did a video on this. If you need to know more about tariffs and need to understand them, watch that video. Essentially, all it means is that goods coming into our country are going to cost more, and that cost is going to be passed down to the consumer. That's your short answer. It winds up being basically a national sales tax. Okay. Trump is a big believer in tariffs, always has been, going back to when he was in the private sector. He thinks that they work. He thinks they are effective negotiating tactics, give you leverage, and they bring revenue in that, we take money from people and we put it into the treasury. Okay. The problem here is a couple things. One, most economists don't agree that tariffs actually really do work. They mostly start trade wars, according to economists, and that's a problem for the overall economy. But more importantly, even than that, and again, watch my tariff video if you need to know more about tariffs. More importantly, even than that, is this. So Trump has been president for 7 weeks. We've had tariffs on Canada and Mexico, then tariffs rescinded on Canada and Mexico, then tariffs back on Canada and Mexico, and now tariffs rescinded. Thank you, balloons. Tariffs rescinded on Canada and Mexico. So the point is, it's uncertainty, right? It's unpredictability. Companies, big multinational companies, many of whom are in the stock market or the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, they want predictability. They want stability because they are making plans for what to do in 6 months, what to do in a year, what to do in 18 months. And when you don't know what trade policy is are we going to have these major tariffs? Are we not? Is Trump going to walk them back? Is he going to leave them? Is it a negotiating tactic, or is he really going to go through with it? What you get is chaos, and markets and companies don't like chaos. They react very poorly to it. And I think that's what you're seeing in the stock market. You are seeing these companies who just want, even if he said, we're going to put tariffs in on Canada and Mexico, they're going to be in place for the next 6 months no matter what, and they're going to be at this rate. I actually think the stock market might be in better shape because there would be at least some certainty that even if companies didn't agree with that tariff policy, thought it was bad economic policy, they would still be able to plan for 6 months or a year going forward on what the U.S. was going to do in terms of goods with Mexico, China, and Canada. Right now, we don't even have that. So to me, it's the limits of Trump's sort of chaos theory of governing, the limits of unpredictability as a strategy. Where do we go next? Harder to figure out, candidly, than how we got here. Where we go next, there are supposed to be steel and aluminum tariffs going into place on Wednesday, March 12th. Trump seems to be going ahead with that. On April 2nd, Trump has said there will be reciprocal tariffs on any country. If you have a tariff on a good that comes into us, we will have a tariff on a good that goes out to you. Make sense? Does he keep with that? Again, back to where I started. Trump is a creature of the stock market. He views the stock market as basically a gauge of popularity. If it is up, people like him. If it is down, he's doing something wrong and needs to change. Now, he's not going to admit that publicly, but that is 100% true. So, with the stock market where it is, as I said, Dow Jones down 3.6% since the inauguration, S&P down 6.4%, NASDAQ down 11%. Does he change course? He believes in tariffs. It's one of the very few things he's been consistent about, that tariffs work. He believes that. But if companies don't like the uncertainty, don't like the unpredictability, don't like the chaos, is Trump able to reverse, to change gears, to do something different, to pivot, to make an audible? I honestly don't know the answer to that, and I think companies don't know the answer to that, and that's why you're seeing this sell-off across all the major markets. So, how we got here, tariffs and uncertainty. How are we going to get out? Certainty and maybe tariffs. Will Donald Trump provide a steady message that he sticks to? I don't know. Here's what I do know. Every single day, I will be here making political videos, talking about the issues of the day, trying to explain it better, trying to bring you an independent, authentic, and transparent perspective on it. Calling balls and strikes. I am not a Republicans are good, Democrats are bad, or vice versa guy. I've been a reporter for a very long time, mainstream media, now independent, and I think this is really important to occupy this space. You can trust me. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a partisanship. So subscribe if you haven't. Comment on this video if you haven't. It helps with the algorithm. Same thing with liking this video. Thumbs up this video because it helps more people get a look at what I'm doing. Hopefully like what I'm doing. Hopefully it grows. Hopefully I can do more of it. The last thing I ask is a simple thing, but an important thing, maybe the most important thing. Tell other people about this channel. Tell people in your life, hey, this guy's making interesting videos. He used to work at CNN. He used to work at the Washington Post. Now he's on his own. He's making these videos without fear or favor. You should check them out. They come out every day. If you do that, I am hugely grateful to you. Let's keep this thing rolling. I need you to make that happen. And take good care. I'll be back tomorrow.